So it's been a while since I've jumped on, and so I wanted to jump on and talk to you a little bit about this book that I told you I was in the process of writing, and it's called Goals and Consequences: Living a Deadline-Driven Life. And what inspired me to write this book, and then I'm still in the process of doing, is my sister and I were working on some goals back in 2000, and she was working for a company, and they had this whole process where they would have someone write down their goals and set a deadline. And so we decided that we would also put consequences in there. So if we didn't fulfill the goal, then we would have a consequence listed with that goal. So for instance, one of my goals was to give flowers out every week to complete strangers. And if I didn't do that, then I couldn't go on a vacation. And there were some other ones that I had done, and it was really just to keep me focused. And the goals were to keep me focused every month, and they could be like environmental goals or financial goals or community-driven goals or school goals or DIY goals or projects or places I wanted to travel. And for each goal, I had a consequence. So if I did not accomplish the goal, then I had to do the consequence. And it would had to be, the consequence for me had to be something that I desperately did not want to do. So for an example, if I had to read a book by the end of the month, maybe my consequence was, if I didn't complete the book, would be to write a book report and talk about it like on YouTube or something I wouldn't have wanted to do, which would have been writing the book report. But so in other words, I would have had to finish the book to write the book report. Another example would be if I didn't have a credit card paid off by the end of April, then I couldn't book a trip. I couldn't go on a trip that maybe I had already booked, because I was showing myself that I was not financially responsible to afford a trip because I didn't pay off a bill. Another goal was to research buying a car. This was back in February of 2000. And I was in Texas and I didn't have a car, and I was walking everywhere. And if I did have a car, it was because I rented one. And this was when I was in college and I was still going to school, and I lived just off campus. And so I started researching this thing that I'd gotten in the mail. It was called Emeritus or AmeriCredit. And I ultimately ended up buying a car with that pre-approved credit and building up my credit. And then because I was making all my payments on time and whatnot, I like a year and a half later got a different car. And another one was, another goal I had to do was get myself back into school. So pay off my debt to get back into school so I could finish college. And I can't remember what my consequence to that was, but I ultimately ended up paying off what I owed the University of North Texas, and I got myself back in. But I've had so many different goals and consequences since 2000, and I tend to go back to them when I feel like I'm not getting a lot done in my life. And so I was speaking about this to some women that I had met in Iceland. And I had gone to Iceland for the very first time on my very first solo trip abroad. And we were at the Blue Lagoon, and this one woman said, "That sounds like a book. You should write a book about that." Because they were all very interested, and they were asking questions like what kind of goals, how do you create the goals, what do you do if you don't complete the goals, and who's with you that does the consequences, and is it self-driven, do you have someone who's accountable? So they're asking me all these questions. And this one woman had said, "I think that sounds like a book. You should write a book." And so in 2016, this was September of 2016, and I decided, well, okay, I will try my hand at writing a book. And so I'm in the process of it. I started writing in it. This is it says goals and consequences, and it was all notes that I've had over the several years. And one of the goals I had was to put all of this onto a Word document and put it, that was at the end of the year. I just had to put all my notes into a Word document because they was just in this flimsy little thing. And so that's what I've done. And I did a lot more research and about getting inspired to do when you start to feel like you're waving or you're winning and you think I'm no good at this, I'm just not going to get this accomplished, then sometimes that's a good time to have an accountability partner to cheer you on, or at least give yourself a break. It's okay. I mean, if their consequence is really severe, then that was your consequence. I wouldn't be able to counsel you on your own consequence. I would say when you're starting something off where you're setting a goal and matching that consequence with the goal. So if you're going to make it so that you have to plant flowers for spring by the end of May. And if you don't, that means you cannot put any flowers out in your garden. You're going to have to go a whole year without your beautiful garden. The consequence in that is, what if everybody expects to see these beautiful flowers? Then you and your neighbors don't get to enjoy them. The benefit is then you're not putting all this money into something and then you have this excess money to put towards something else. Another goal and consequence might be, I need to organize all of my paperwork. So all my bills need to be in separate files, or I need to scan them in, however you choose to do that. And if I don't organize my bills, that means that I have to go to a financial planning seminar, and I have to have it booked within a month. So that is another example of how your goal would be about something financial and the consequence has to mirror that in some way, shape, or form. Another example would be, I really want to get involved with my community. So this month, my goal is to, every week, I'm going to take a garbage bag and I'm just going to go pick up litter in a park. And I'm going to journal it, or I'm going to take a picture of what I've done, and that'll be my proof to myself and maybe your accountability person. If I don't do that, then I have to help my friends or neighbors with their rummage sale, or I have to, like, something that's associated with getting rid of something excess. So you'd have to donate your time for something, or you'd have to volunteer with like a park system, or something that you'd have to give back. So there's always something that you have to learn or benefit from the consequence, even though it is considered a consequence. One of the questions I had from a friend was, well, if these are all consequences, if you're achieving a goal, why don't you have a reward? And that derailed me, because I thought to myself, well, that's not how this book is, but maybe I should address it. And I took a step back, and for about a year, I didn't write, because I felt like someone had just taken all the wind out of my sails. And so I talked to a friend of mine, and they said, no, you have to write this book. Write it, and the book isn't about rewards. The book is about having goals and consequences. And what I learned from that was, when I used to work for a law firm doing intellectual property, and everything was on the docket. And we had to meet these deadlines, otherwise the consequences were huge. They would either be very monetary, in terms of like you'd have to pay several $1,000s to get something taken care of, or the patent or trademark dropped and there was no recourse. And so the company would no longer have this this intellectual property, and it could be at the fault of the firm. So it was very deadline driven. And so when I was creating this book, I was thinking, I live a deadline driven life because I'm constantly involved in these deadlines, and I have to be cognizant of them, and I have to make sure they're honored. And so my life is dictated towards and by deadlines. And this book really mirrors that lifestyle. And that's probably why I did so well at setting goals and creating consequences that mirrored those goals, because I was already doing something like that anyway. And I became very good at doing intellectual property as well, because I was very, very used to looking at deadlines and knowing that we needed to honor them, and jumping on the attorneys saying, we have these deadlines, we have them, we need to do something about them. What do you want me to do? So this book motivates me to communicate everything out loud. And so even though I'm writing it, I also felt like it was a good idea to jump on and just give you an idea of what this book is about and why I feel that it helps me. It got me back into college. It helped me get a car. It helped me pay off my debt. It helped me face some serious fears. Some of them was just like being in a restaurant by myself. And how this helped me confront that and move past it was I had listed, I have to write in my journal for an hour every single day, either on my patio or outside my house somewhere, like at a restaurant or a cafe or whatever. And I did that every single day. Every single day I was either at a restaurant for an hour, I was outside on my porch, I was somewhere else for an hour. And it got me so used to being outside by myself and writing that I didn't feel awkward. That was one of the many steps that guided me to being able to travel abroad by myself and not feel uncomfortable getting off a plane by myself in a foreign country by myself, getting everything organized, checking into a hotel, getting something to eat, or going on tours by myself, because I had already spent a month with this journal all over at different restaurants by myself. And just take a step back, I have always traveled within the United States alone, but I hadn't taken trips to a new place, not meeting someone by myself. I typically didn't go to restaurants and sit down and eat by myself. I would maybe take it and I'd go. I wouldn't sit and read a book. I wouldn't sit and write in a journal. None of that. I would take it and I would go. But at this point, it was in the month of April, I had accomplished that. And then it was in July of that same year that I booked my ticket to go to Iceland, and it was Labor Day weekend, I traveled to Iceland by myself. And that is where I met these women, and they told me I should write a book about this. So it's sort of full circle. So my question to you is this something that you think you could do in your own life? Do you think this is something you're already doing? Because I think everybody already does this. Everybody that I've noticed already sets goals, and there are already consequences if they don't accomplish them. They have a goal to save money for a house, and if they don't save enough money for their house, maybe their lease is up, or maybe their parents are like, you can't stay here any longer. They have a consequence. It's already there. And I just want to know, what are some examples of you actually having set a goal and knowing there's a consequence if you don't meet that goal? And how did you handle it? Did you feel like you felt really accomplished, or were you so racked with anxiety that it's just not something you ever want to face again? And so now you have made sure that you're comfortable and you don't have any of that adversity, and you're not one of those people that are ambitious and want to level up. I am a very, very ambitious person, and so that's why I'm constantly setting goals and setting consequences. And in school and traveling, I just have to keep feeding myself and keep improving. But that's me. I'm not saying that's you. I'm not saying it has to be you. I'm asking you what is interesting to you. So if anybody watches this, if you've made it this far, that's great. Please write a message. And if you're interested, I would love to have someone from here be represented in my book. And if you're willing to do a goal and consequence for a month, and then write to me or DM me or message me or whatever and tell me and answer some questions, I would love to quote you in my book. I would love to involve you in my book. So thank you for listening. I know it's been about 16 minutes and I know it's really long and a lot of people don't like watching long videos, so I deeply appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. Have a great